Okay, another episode. We're back. And today we're going to talk about halftime. And I was thinking a little bit about just some of our experiences that we've had and some of the things that we've witnessed with our customers. And I don't know, I feel like halftime is a very diverse topic, if I'm being honest, because there's just so many things that actually can go into halftime as far as fan engagement goes. But then I also feel like the importance of halftime is maybe overlooked sometimes. Meaning, if I'm thinking about the purpose of halftime, right? It's usually like a strategic reset, physical recovery, but then also it's typically in order to help the players and the fans maybe gain momentum.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of like what have been very successful halftimes that I personally have experienced at a game. Have you experienced any?
Yeah, I can think of a couple right offhand. So I wasn't thinking about it necessarily in the terms of helping the athletes. Like that hadn't really occurred to me, so I'm curious what you're thinking of there. What I was thinking of it in terms of was it is one of your primary times to increase the fan engagement, which is so much what we're about. And it's also, I think, what a lot of our customers, I won't necessarily want to struggle with, but it's one of their focuses, right? Because I don't know. I remember I always have this memory of, oh yeah, so during lockdown, there was a hard time for everybody, right? And as a company, since we're so focused on engagement, like we started looking at how do you engage people who can't be in the auditorium or in the gymnasium or, at the field, because there were fewer and fewer people even allowed. And so when we started looking at that, we started looking at, the gamification on our fan app. We started looking at tools. And then lockdown ended and we started hearing from athletic directors, okay, that's great, but now I need to figure out how to get butts back in seats, right? I don't want to necessarily... I want people in there. That's what we really want. And so when I'm thinking about halftime, I'm thinking like, okay, so that's one of your major opportunities to make it so that the experience is memorable for the people in the venue. Like that's one of the key places to make it like the cool thing, the cool place to be on a Friday night.
Well, I mean, think about it like, it seems so obvious to me, but yet I also feel like it's something that is so heavily overlooked, which is the idea of home field advantage and just how the fan experience and their energy plays towards the athlete's energy, right? Like there's the adrenaline rush that usually happens at the beginning of the game. That's why we have tunnel walks. That's why we have the starting lineups that we do. And so the more that you lean into those things, the better. But both of those things happen at the beginning of the game.
Right.
Versus like, what are you doing at halftime to kind of help reignite that flame?
Yeah.
So when you talk about gamification, it made me think of a couple of different things. Obviously, I feel like almost it's like standard at this point for indoor, you have like dance and cheer performances usually.
Yeah.
And then for band, usually in the football field.
And I think depending on the district, those might even be like you have to segment a portion of your
for
time
activities
for that because that's what those kids are doing it for, right?
Right, exactly. So those are obviously vital. So don't cut any of those things out. But then I think about like maybe every once in a while you have the specialization of like maybe an award's being granted or it's like the week before prom and so you have the courting and all of that. But what are, I guess, I can think of a couple games that come to mind as far as what we've seen over halftime. And I feel like games help a lot just maintain the overall engagement.
Yep.
And what I'm curious about is I feel like band performances or cheerleading or dance always happen first. And then usually the games happen second. Is that fair to say?
I don't know.
Okay. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually you have a cheer, swap the game, and then the teams come warm up.
Yeah. Okay. So usually the games happen afterwards. So what I'm thinking of is what would be like your top three, because I know that you've had some of customer experiences.
Yeah.
I've had some as a fan and with customers.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking off right off, one of our college customers, it was pretty funny because they did a trivia game, but I can't remember the exact. It was a trivia game, but they put a physical activity in there. So I think they were shooting free throws, answering a question, shoot a free throw, answer a question, shoot a free throw, answer a question, which I thought was kind of cool because it's tying it into the sport and doing the game part of it. And I think specifically it was a junior college and they were asking facts about the campus. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's smart.
Yeah, because it gets the kids engaged in not just like the possibility to win a prize. It was the prize was provided by a local like sandwich shop, I think.
Yeah.
It was like a free sandwich at a local sandwich shop. So it was a sandwich shop that was popular with the kids. It wasn't something, so it served as a ad for the sandwich shop. It was, so they said it was sponsored by them. You're going to win a free sandwich and a t-shirt. It's combining a physical activity and the trivia, and it was tying kind of into a school spirit thing all in one.
Yeah.
So I think that is just
a really good
awesome.
Example.
Yeah.
I love that too. Okay, so I was also thinking about similar but less school spirit-esque, which was one of my favorites that I know Husker football does during their halftime that I'm always like, man, I wonder how that would work out at the high school level. Maybe it would, but I feel like it's like an older generation usually for collegiate sports.
Right.
Is excuse me, name that like era or name that year.
Yeah.
So like they'll show different like video clips from movies that were created in that year. They'll show or they'll play different music sounds. They usually do like kind of like a montage. It's really cool and it's so much fun. And then you kind of guess like I think it was 1972.
Yeah,
fun.
you could almost do that with so at a high school level. I think it'd be funny to do that with. So in my high school, there were ancient photos of championship teams, stuff like that. Do it to kind of combine the idea. Take the pictures, take digital photos of the pictures in your Hall of Fame or whatever.
Yeah.
Put them up on the screen and say, what year was this? What year was this? What year was this? Just look. Yeah.
That would be very fun, actually, from an alumni experience.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the other thing that I was thinking of, which I know isn't really gamification, but I feel like there's a big miss on tying back your alumni. I have seen one high school do an excellent job at this, and that is Christopher Columbus High School. Shout out Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about, like I have yet to really ask them or spend time with them to figure out like, what is it about that experience that just like makes your alumni gravitate back towards your high school program? But they have this massive like fair almost. It's like a festival, actually, I guess is what I should call it, where all of their alumni come back. There's like a big cookout. It's like a whole thing. And I thought that was really cool. And it's just made me wonder, like, I don't know. I mean, as obviously a high school graduate for most of us, how much do we really care about our high school sports still? I would say if you're still living in the community, the answer is yes, you probably do. And I realized that the day that there was a news story that came out that was about how a local high school or local public school district had a situation where somebody had discarded some of their old trophies and photographs.
Ooh.
And an alumni saw them in the trash can and was like, what the heck? Like when my kids go to school there, like I was hoping that they would see that picture of me in the halls.
I was just going to say that. I think there's a legacy. I think a lot of people's involvement with their high school as an alumni is a legacy thing. So it happens a lot more when they stay local and their kids go to the same school.
Right.
And
Or if they go off to college, like having them come back and being able to like be a part of that experience still and share their story.
Keeping that link from graduating high school through their college, through getting older and having their own kids all the way into high school. And so, it takes some effort as an institution to try and foster that
Right.
feeling. So I think some schools have that culture already. Some schools are trying to build it. And I think in certain areas, maybe it's just too hard
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or think about like a lot of your alumni typically go off to do something within the business world. And so, like, if that's the case, pull them back as a sponsor and then have them sponsor one of the games that you're playing.
Yep.
Like, I know we talked about this one on the last episode, but it will still always be one of my favorites of the money on the floor because it was so much fun. And people got so involved. They were so excited about being able to help this person win basically $1,000. Who wouldn't love that?
Yeah.
Not that you have to go that high, but like I feel like you can take a lot from the collegiate experiences of halftime and you can make them smaller to fit within the box of what feels appropriate for a high school halftime.
Yeah.
I feel like baseball teams, professional baseball teams have perfected this.
Yeah.
Is that fair for me to say? Have you thought
I'm
about
curious.
it that way?
No, I mean, when you say baseball and entertainment, I immediately go to banana ball, but that's not necessarily everybody
Savannah
wanting
bananas,
to,
everybody.
Yeah, that's not where I'm thinking everybody wants to go with it. So.
What I'm thinking is like if you've ever gone to like a minor league baseball game, I feel like in between innings, there's always something going on. Like I remember as a kid being like, I'm going to a baseball game with my friends and my parents, and my best friend was like, I want to sign up to do the hamster wheel race. And like, you're in one of those blow ups and you're like running down the entire baseball field and just making a fool of yourself. But it's sponsored. So you get the brand out there and it's always a good time. And I feel like that. And obviously you have like seventh inning stretch.
Right. Yeah, and even depending, like, there's a lot of traditions there too, depending on the team.
Right. So I feel like you can pull some of that from like, you know, other teams and
mascot run, which a mascot run's probably easier than that hamster ball run.
You know what though? How many high schools have you actually seen the mascot? I feel like I don't see very many
You know where
anymore.
I've seen it? In the movies. I don't think I've ever seen an actual mascot anymore. No, seriously.
I don't think so either. I feel like I did see one recently. It might have been West Side Warriors. I think they had a guy dressed up like in a knight's costume.
I hadn't thought about it.
But other than that, I feel like I never see an actual mascot
I think we had one, but you know, that was a little bit ago.
Yeah.
That wasn't last year when I was
A lot
there.
of it might have to do with a lot of the mascots are duplicated from professional teams.
That could be, yeah.
Okay, other good examples that we've seen as far as gamification goes. I know David Sutter, our chief product officer, a couple of his favorites have always been the puzzle pieces, which is a good example. And that's a good one for using your LED display for. So
describe that.
Yeah. So the puzzle piece one is where it's like one image and you're trying to guess what that image is. And then slowly the pieces come together to form it. And it's an easy one for students to create, which I think is why it's such a great option.
Yep.
One that is a little bit, I would say it's, I don't know, producer Evan, too bad you don't have a mic right now, but I would say that one of the more difficult ones, but it's a common one, is the baseball hat one where the ball's under the hat.
Oh, yeah. Or the shell game kind of thing.
Shell game. Thank you.
Yeah.
Obviously, that one's pretty popular, and we do have some templates, I think, for some of those.
Yeah, I know we did. It's been a while since I looked at them.
Yeah, so, but you see that one everywhere. So I feel like, you know, you probably could find some of this stuff online through like
if you're not already doing anything, that's a good place to start.
Right. And you can also do it during like timeouts and other things. If you're hosting, a larger event where you're even required to have like a TV timeout.
That makes me think of something. So we were focused on, I don't know, and a coach may think I'm stupid for saying this, so forgive me. But to me, you're talking about the opportunity for it. I think it depends on the coach, it depends on the institution, and it depends on the situation. But I think timeouts are also a chance, depending on the situation, to get people hyped again too, right? So back to what you were saying about halftime being an ideal spot to get reinvigorated. Like I think we could maybe think a little bit about short, engaging, hype up pieces because you're the home team. When it's your opponent's calling a timeout,
right?
Everything should be dead quiet and intimidating, right?
Yeah,
When it's you call it
honestly.
a timeout to get hyped,
Yeah.
or
No.
vice versa. I don't know. Distract them when it's their turn. I don't know. But it does seem like take that same observation you made about halftime and being a chance to because I don't know, especially in basketball and volleyball and the indoor sports, the timeouts are so often to break momentum
Yeah.
and to try and re-engage your team when you're behind or when you just had a bad streak. So, yeah, I think
Yeah,
there's
that's
a lot
really
to think
true.
about there.
And okay, so a couple different things to think about with that too is some of these, first off, I would say like rotation of things, right? So like you're not doing the same thing every single halftime. Every single home game, it shouldn't look the same, in my
Right.
personal opinion. You should try to diversify
Yeah.
it. So have a couple things ready. When we're talking about like the ability to sprinkle things in over timeouts, obviously a game works very well, but then you also have the ability to do like game highlights, which I don't know if anybody's seen our most recent Instagram reel, not to make a sales pitch, but SV Capture has made that really easy because you're literally able to take some of the game highlights and have them accessible to your cloud and then put
Play
them up
them
on the
during
display.
a break. Yeah.
So that makes it really easy. And also those could be sponsored, right?
Yeah.
Like you could add a logo at the bottom of them if you have a really good quick editor that's able to do that and then get them up on the board, which I feel like is also another great way to get some more engagement. Another thing, just thinking about that, is when it comes to timeouts, what the capabilities are for being able to provide some type of like, I feel like the light shows, the audio portion of fan engagement is kind of overlooked. Like we're sitting here talking about games and it's like, yeah, that's super important, but I feel like audio usually provides some type of feeling or emotion.
Right.
And I guess when you're thinking about timeouts, like even just simply being able to play a tune that is catchy.
And I could see that so I was just sitting here thinking about what you said about keeping it fresh, right?
Yeah.
So two thoughts there. One, to tie into what you just said, the idea of using audio. To me, maybe audio is something to think about because it's an opportunity for a lower production effort way to keep people engaged. If
Right.
all that means is curating a playlist, but you have a well curated playlist,
Right.
especially one done by the students who know exactly what the current trends are and what is going to hype the kids
People up.
up, that's a good lower effort way to
Right.
keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And so then the other part of that was when you're talking about keeping it fresh, I was thinking about seasonal changes. But again, that goes to the other end of the spectrum where you may need more production effort to keep stuff fresh on a seasonal basis, So
Yeah.
where if you're updating graphics and stuff like that to match the whatever the next holiday is, if it's spring break time, if it's Christmas, whatever, you may need more production effort. That audio playlist curation thing is something that, at least as far as I know, kids still do constantly. They're constantly sharing playlists and constantly
They
sharing.
are. Well, and there's more resources to be able to do it than there used to be.
So I think that kind of that resonates with me.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, obviously, like you have to find copywritten solutions. And I can't remember, there is an audio solution that a lot of schools use.
That's one. Well, I know, professional level.
Yeah.
Maybe. I can't remember. That might be it.
There's a couple you can get, but
You're talking about for if you're trying to worry about royalties.
Yeah.
There's
But then the other half of it is like, so when I was thinking about time out, like a good example would be football games, depending on the football team. I feel like you've seen kind of this new era and you're seeing it kind of play out at the high school, for high schools as well. I mean, basketball, indoor sports is a little bit harder, but I feel like it's still capable of having kind of the same thing where there's certain songs that have been very tied to specifically the student athlete, or not the student athlete, the student section.
Yep. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
even with when I'm thinking of who is it that does Sweet Caroline during the 7th inning stretch every time, and
I
then
can't remember.
yeah, I mean there's all sorts of like British soccer clubs
Like
that
that
are
song "Jump" is another one that I feel like
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of basketball teams or football teams use.
and it becomes kind of a
Yeah, third quarter or third down for Huskers, they do a very weird like bell chime
okay
that
yeah
like dings, and it dings a couple times, kind of like almost like a warning chime. It's weird. It's very interesting, but it's usually like gets the fans start screaming at the top of their lungs.
Yeah, in pro, they have like shoot a three and they make a coin noise or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the coin noise. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
Baseball,
So
they
I
have the batters coming out. They have the batters.
Yeah.
Music.
yeah
So thinking about all of these different things we talked about, I think what we could sum up for this episode is when it comes to how you implement these things, this is why a game script is so critical. Not that you can predict what's going to happen during a game, but you can sort of identify, how many timeouts are within it. What is timeout 1 going to be like? What is timeout 2 going to be like? What is halftime going to look like? Is the first 5 minutes going to be the band performance, and then the next 2 minutes are going to be the dance performance, and then the game after that you're playing for halftime, all of that stuff. And fortunate for most people, and in fact I believe anyone has access to it on our blog, is that we do have a game script template that people can download that helps you be able to mark out what should be shown on the LED, but also what happens from a PA situation, and also from an audio situation of what you're playing.
yeah
So hopefully that is a very helpful resource for everyone, but I feel like, there's a lot of different options out there. Hopefully this gives some ideas of what you can do. And I don't know, reach out to us if I guess if you have any other halftime games or experiences that you've done that you're really proud of. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ashley.
Yep. Thanks, Ben.
When you started saying game script, I thought you were going to start making political commentary about the NFL, all those games being scripted. So
Oh.
go Chiefs.